Okay, I started the recording and you should have remote control now.
Thank you. So good morning again. My name is Solina. I'm the food systems specialist for Miami-Dade County. I've been on the food systems team for a little over a year. And before that, I was a program assistant in Miami-Dade for about a year and a half. And today I'm going to share with you some benefits of working with herbs, of eating them, growing, and celebrating in fun, festive, and healthy ways. And I'm actually trying to advance the slide. Okay, there we go. So, as we know from many of the curriculum classes that we teach, especially the adult curriculums, herbs can be used as a flavorful alternative to salt, fat, and sugar without adding extra calories to our meals. So herbs can be a great way of having tasty meals and making healthier choices. So that's some of the health benefits of eating herbs. And herbs can also be a great way to start out gardening. A lot of them are pretty forgiving and they're resilient. So if you're new to gardening, it can be a great first choice to begin and have some successes and build some confidence. And they can also be grown in pots and containers. So this can be a solution if you are short on space or if you don't have a place where you can put in a raised bed. You can grow some herbs in a smaller space in pots. And if you start out small, if you are beginning and you make mistakes, then when you make mistakes, they're smaller mistakes. So you didn't invest too much, and you can learn from them and quickly adapt and make changes as you go forward. Herbs are also able to be grown. A lot of them are able to be grown year-round, or there are many different varieties that you can choose from. So no matter what time of year it is, there are some herbs available. So if you're needing to start a garden at any point during the year, they can be a great choice. And they're also ready to harvest. So if you have a short amount of time where you're planting and then you need to harvest quickly, you won't get as big of a harvest as you would if you waited until longer, but you can have something ready within whatever time frame you need. Over the summer, I had to plant a garden at a summer camp, and we had a very short time. We had 4 weeks, and we were able to plant and harvest some herbs that also in Miami-Dade County gets really hot in the summer. So we were able to plant rosemary, lemongrass, mint, and all of them did really well. Another reason herbs are a great way to get into gardening is they're an investment. A lot of herbs are perennials, which means that they continue to live year after year. And so you don't need to buy new ones every year. You can just harvest from the ones that you've already planted. And you can even expand your garden by taking cuttings from the ones that you've planted and growing those into new plants. So it's a great investment that continues to multiply. And today I wanted to talk about some fun ways that you can use herbs for celebrations. And I organized them into fall celebrations and spring celebrations. So In fall, we have Thanksgiving, Christmas, and any other holidays that you celebrate or any festivities. Here are some ideas for herbs that you can harvest in the fall, which means that they, like I was saying earlier, you can plant them and harvest them at any time, but if you plant them in the spring or earlier, then you'll have a larger harvest when it comes to the fall. So this is an EDIS document, and it has some examples of herbs that do well when planted in the spring. So these would be ready for fall harvest. And some ones in particular that are very holiday related are sage, rosemary, thyme. Those are used a lot in many holiday dishes. And these are some ideas for how they can be used after you harvest them. So you can dry your herbs and take them home by themselves, you know, in a nice container, which is a great gift. Or you can use the dried herbs to make herbal blends, or you can blend them together and make a tea, or you can have a tasting party with fresh or dry herbs. And a lot of them, they're just beautiful things to bring home. So you can have a bundle of fresh or dried herbs, or a bouquet garni, which is very holiday festive, or you can make some tea as gifts. So when you're drying herbs, you want to make sure that you harvest them and wash and store them and dry them at the right time. So when you're drying leaves that are less succulent, like the sage, rosemary, and thyme I was mentioning, these can be partially dried in the sun and they won't burn. But you don't want to leave them out in the sun for too long. And with anything, when we're going to eat it, you want to make sure that it's clean beforehand. So before you dry them, you want to wash them and drain them with a paper towel, and just make sure that they're as dry as you can get them before you put them in the sun to dry further. And then you leave them in the sun, and you want it for a short amount of time, and then you can move them to an area that is dry and with airflow out away from the sun. And then once your herbs are nice and dry, you can separate the leaves from the stems and then pack them into really nice containers, glass or metal or cardboard. Anything that can be closed tightly will keep the smell, the aroma and flavor. And when you're storing them, to keep them for a long time, you want to put them out of the sunlight, because the sun will bleach the leaves. These are some pictures of herb drying racks from a company called the Gardener's Supply Company. And you don't need to purchase anything to dry your herbs, but it's just showing you that you want to make sure that they're in a clean space, in a space that has airflow and protected. You can even use, there's another picture with a flat cardboard tray. You can use that, and as long as it's clean, and just lay them on a cardboard tray in the sun. Or you can hang them, you know, just tie them in a bundle and tie them somewhere to hang. This is a recipe for an example of a blend that you can make. And this recipe was actually taken from an EDIS document. But you can make a salt-free blend, or you can, as in the picture, you can have just herbs on their own, just like how you would purchase them at the store. You can make them yourself, and they make great gifts. This is a salt-free blend, which again, we talk about trying to reduce salt and sodium, so this is a great healthy alternative for flavoring your food. Another option aside from blends for cooking is tea. You can make blends for tea, or you can have them on their own too. So this slide shows a lesson from the Florida Ag in the Classroom curriculum called Gardening for Nutrition, and it's a lesson on that includes an activity where you make tea bags from coffee filters. And so once you've dried your herbs, you can use them also in this activity to make tea, or you don't need to put them in filters, but that's just part of this lesson, which is one of our curriculums. You can also send home the herbs. If it's in a school, you can send home dried herbs with the students, and along with recipe recommendations, or these are things that the teachers can do, is send these home with students. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about some ideas for spring celebrations. And in spring we have, among many other holidays, we have Earth Day, Mother's Day, and Easter. So these are herbs that if you planted in the fall, you can have a nice spring harvest from them. And whereas the ones I was mentioning working with in the fall are really great for drying, a lot of the spring herbs are, they tend to work really well when you use them fresh. So I'm going to talk through some ideas for using fresh herbs. So some examples of great fresh herbs are basil, mint, cilantro. So all of these plants, the leaves have a higher moisture content, so it makes them a little bit trickier to dry. But you can, of course, dry these as well. It just, you have to take a little bit more care. And these ones you don't want to leave out in the sun if you do choose to dry them. You want to dry them in a dark room away from the sun, and again, make sure it's airy and dry. So one idea for using fresh herbs for spring celebrations is pesto, which you can make with basil and sorrel if you have those ready to harvest in your garden. Salsa making is another great activity for a tasting party using cilantro and parsley. A fruit salad of any kind works really well with mint, and again, you can make tea. Some herbs that you can send home are, you can just bundle them fresh, and that's a really beautiful way to send them home, and but making sure that they are protected on the way, because they wouldn't do very well in a backpack. Or if you made pesto in class, for example, and there was enough, then you can send that home in a nice jar. These are some examples of ways that these fresh herbs can be, or combinations of things they go really well together with. So parsley goes really well with salads, with as a topping on vegetables or pastas. Cilantro pairs really well with Mexican and Asian cooking, with rice, salsa, tomatoes. Mint goes really well with desserts, with lamb, peas, fruit salads, sauces. And basil goes well with tomato products, with eggs, meat, rice, spaghetti, soups, beans, and eggplant is also listed. And this was also from an EDIS document talking about herbs. Having trouble advancing my slide. Well, and that's all I had for you. Thank you so much for listening. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm looking on the chat. I see a question. Would it be up to F&P standards to plant herbs here at our office to use in recipes we share with classes? I don't know the answer to that question, but that's a great question. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to jump in, but if we don't get an answer on that, I can look into that and get back to you with that. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, perfect. It says Jean will look into this. Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for your time. And I hope you get to work with some herbs in fun, tasty, healthy, festive ways. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Solina.
Thank you.